Oh, that's the wrong thing.
It's all good.
Okay. So, and then sometimes I might have to edit stuff out, but okay. Welcome to Pictures Up. I am here with Renaissance man Richard Moody.
That means I'm old, everybody. Old, don't you know? Old.
This man has been all over the world doing fashion shows and events, Cape Town, Paris, New York. Fantastic. Richard, so tell me, how did you get involved in the business?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me be here. So I got involved when I was probably, when I was 18 years old. Okay. I used to be a university cheerleader for the Gophers here at the University of Minnesota. And they started using the cheerleaders, because we did stunts and we were young. And then it progressed from there where they would continue to use the models, the cheerleaders, and we became models. And I got picked up by agencies back then. Nice. They were probably no longer around.
Okay.
So 18 years old and now I'm 62.
Wow. That's
so good
fantastic.
Black don't crack. Only a black person can say that.
Richard, you're so crazy.
Yes, right.
So, you and I met on the Emmy-nominated Grandbaby Spot. How did you get involved with that?
I got involved because I have a great agency. The agency called us, and I think I'm at that age now where I'm the grandparent, and I do a lot of healthcare things. So it was a great opportunity. People loved us as the mom, husband and wife, and the grandparents and stuff like that. So, I think being in the business, I think we've aged well, and so it was a great opportunity to be a part of it. And I'm also glad that they know that Black people exist, and that Black men can be married to Black women and have Black babies.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. I said it because I've been on commercials, which is fine, where the young child might have biracial parents or a white mother. And I think that goes to say sometimes you have to understand when you get your kids in the business, the commitment of. And so that was this grad that we were cast as a complete African Black family, and we loved each other. And we were very believable to the point, and where the hospital were come out crying.
Yes,
they thought we were a real family, and the son in it looked like my son and everything like that. So that's how I got involved. And,
that was a fantastic.
And we showed up on time.
Yeah, that was a fantastic spot, and we have to thank Josh Mundell for casting us.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Yeah. So, tell me, I know you do all of these fashion shows and whatnot. What does the day-to-day look like for a fashion show producer?
Well, I think the day-to-day is depending on what season is. If it's, right now we're in Minnesota or even New York or Paris or South Africa, we're going into Spring Fashion Week. So I think, first off, as a producer, get the job. And then I think they have a great team. So I have a great I Am Moody team. Most of them are freelancers. So, you get the job, you get the client, then you start going into production. You come up with a theme, and then you work back who are the designers are going to be, and then you work back who your creative team is, how many designers, who are the models, who are the hair and makeup, who's the DJ, because I usually do the shows live. We're a real live DJ because the models are like greyhounds. When you let them out of that gate, they're walking. And when everyone does it on DAT, you could run out of music, so we do it live.
I see.
So creating what the whole show is, and then you work from what the budgets are, the location, the venues, who the sponsors are, because we'd like the models to get paid. It's probably not always their normal compensation, but something other than a gift bag.
Nice. So speaking of the models, what is the casting process for you? Are you the casting director, or does the client, or how does that work?
If it depends on what the project is. Like I Am Moody, we're doing something for Spring Fashion Week here in the Twin Cities. So I guess I'm all of the client, the producer, the creative. So I think once I figure who the designers are, then I figure out the models. A lot of times I'll tend to use some of the same models, or I'll go to some of the agencies and go with models that way. Because of my personality, I've been in the business for a long time. I can actively speak out loud for diversity. And I think because we're here in Minnesota, I'm sure your show's going to go global. I think Minnesotans forget that unlike a Black American, that Black is a lot of different flavors. We have a lot of big Africans. We have Sudanese, Liberians, Congolese, models from Sudan. So there's a lot of variety. We also have models who are wearing burqas. So I really want to show them realism, globalism. I think sometimes Minnesotans think they still have to use Blacks, blondes, not a lot of Asians, or they'll think, okay, African American might be my color, but no, we come a lot of different colors, so in a lot of different sizes. So, I mean, I think figuring out who's available, figuring out who's going to work for what the particular rate is, and everything like that.
And so, having said what you said, how would someone, you know, find out about your show, you know, or you know, be in consideration for one of your fashion shows?
You know, I think a lot of times the young people now, the millennials, are on Instagram.
Right.
You can probably find me on Instagram or through your program. They can follow us, find me and stuff like that. So I think submitting pictures and to pick, if it's a runway show, typically even all of them are probably at least 5'8" up. You know, and because, you know, I work all over the country and all over the world. So real runway models are 5'9" and up. You know, they don't usually use runway girls that are 5'8", and the boys are usually 6 foot up because now the women are so much taller. So the boys can go, when I started years ago, we were all 6 foot and the ladies were 5'8", 5'9". And now the business is the boys are 6'2" because the women are 6'2". And if you put women in heels, now they go to 6'5". And that's why also most runway shows, I keep them separate. So the sizing isn't so odd. You know, we'll have a male segment or a female segment unless it's bridal.
I see.
Because, you know, runway is different than print. You know, the print models can go anywhere from 5'6", 5'8". You know, even a lot of times I don't usually like to use females that are really tall in print because if it's Kohl's or if it's, you know, Lands' End or if it's, you know, something in, you know, Wisconsin. So that's how it works. I mean, they can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or even go to the I Am Moody website, and I think our schedule's up there. But I think submitting pictures and you know, real pictures. And I'm a real kind of person. I can see through, you know, photos if there's some possibilities. Yeah.
I see. Okay. And speaking of, well, first of all, what is your greatest, what would make a person stand out for you if they submitted for one of your fashion shows, and what would turn you off?
What would I consider? I think, you know, just some good pictures. I think I like the models to be unique, particularly the women. I don't tend to book models that have weaves and wigs. And as a black man, as a man, I have challenged with that because what are we telling young black women is beauty? If you're wearing wigs and weaves, what are we telling young girls who don't have that long hair? Because you have to embrace who we are and who they are. You can't all be Naomi Campbell, which is a wig, which is a weave, which is broken off her hair. You probably don't want to put that out there. But, you know, I like the women to be unique and own your flavor. So if you're trying to look like a black Barbie doll, that's not working for me. You know, and as we now know, what did we just have 5 black women who all were Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss America, Miss Teen, and each one is unique. So as a man, and, you know, I grew up with all brothers and I have, you know, 10 nieces and nephews. I want them to own who they are, you know, and then, so that's how I first started. And then depending on if I might throw a wig on them, and I do use some African girls who do have some really cool braids and stuff like that. But, you know, for the most part, I think global. The black girls and African girls are working, have no hair. I mean, they are unique. They are black and they are stunning, and they are owning their cheekbones, and they are owning those long, skinny legs, the girls from Sudan, or, you know, or the Brazilian black girls. My role as a black man and a crabby uncle and grandfather that I can be is telling them, you need to own who you are. We can't let the culture dictate, particularly non-people of color, what beauty is. So that's how I start.
And then would you have that same advice for young men who are looking into what do we look for?
I think the same. Well, you know, guys, for the most part, they're not going to come with wigs and weaves.
Right,
I think, you know, for a male model, I mean, I think it's all about the physique. I mean, you know, depending on who the client is, if I'm using something from Menswear Market, which is a menswear high-end boutique, because, you know, I'm going off, getting things off the rack. You know, a lot of the runway models, depending on who the designers are, can be very small because they're making for those specific sizes. But if you're going to go off the rack, most guys are usually a 32 waist or 33 waist, and the inseam's about 33, 34. So I know that going into the runway show, what sizes I'm going to be looking for. Yeah, so.
And,
sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. So you just, you're headed to New York for Fashion Week.
I am. I'm going to be in New York for actually a kickoff party, and I have some friends that are going from the Twin Cities to work with. You know, I'm just going to go to help backstage. I mean, I've worked for the Vogue Knitwear magazine from a guy here called Stephen Beat, the Knitter Glitter. I've gone there and worked with him backstage. So, you know, typically I'll go and assist backstage and just give my opinions and kind of keep things calm and consistent. And I don't mind being behind the scenes. I think sometimes what models forget is we all want to be in the camera, in front of the camera, on the runways. But a lot of times it's much more interesting the behind the scenes, because you're keeping it running. Behind, you know, we're keeping shit going and keeping models on check, and you're keeping the clients calm and everything like that. So I'll be there. I've got some clients that are leaving from Twin Cities. I've got some clients there. Val Moselle, who is a shoe designer. She's specialty on espadrilles, handmade espadrilles with, you know, really sustainable cottons and rubbers for the soles. So I'll work with her.
I'm sorry, what is espadrille?
Sandals.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
You know, they're just a sandal, kind of a cotton sandal that she's knitting and everything like that.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll be there, and then I leave.
For Cape Town.
I'll be in South Africa, Cape Town for a month. I've got clients that I work with, Unknown Union. I'm still a model actor. And I tell people it's not like they're out of black people, but because I do speak with an American accent and I can look like some of the tribes, I do a lot of commercials when I'm there. And most importantly, I'll work with young African blacks in the townships, particularly boys and young men, because they're dealing with apartheid, which is very much with us dealing with being a Negro or black or colored. And my whole role is that everything is possible, that we cannot let our cultures define us or hold us back. So I'll work with young people in the townships to encourage young men, keep going. Pull your pants up, you know, and keep going. Don't let the society dictate us moving forward.
And just give me a snapshot of what it's like to be in New York behind the scenes on a fashion show.
It's funny because, you know, coming from the Midwest, sometimes people don't think we come with a lot of qualifications. And obviously that's not true, because a lot of the successful models are from small Midwest towns with great Midwest values.
Right.
Because whose parents have said, we will continue to support you, we love you, and call us when you're in these scenarios that don't feel comfortable. So I think, you know, most importantly, and I've worked for Ted Gibson, who is the hairdresser to the stars, and you can look up Ted. He's amazing hairdresser, and we're all from Aveda. I used to work in Aveda. I still work with Aveda. So I think, you know, behind the scenes, it's hectic, you know, and you'll have, depending on the budgets, you'll have probably, you know, 15, 20 hair makeup artists. You've got the designers, you've got the style team, you've got the models who are coming in from all different shows, and, you know, they'll be backed up and they may be running late. They'll maybe just be in time to get in their outfits and hit the runway.
Well, I have one question for you that I'm kind of curious about. So, you know, a lot of models, they are, you know, we all want to look good, okay? But sometimes, you know, and the stylist, the hair makeup stylist, they are there to make you look good too, and, you know, but sometimes it doesn't always match what, you know, what you want to look like and what the producer wants to look like. So how do you communicate that to the hair makeup stylist to try to, you know, meet in the middle or something?
For me, as a producer, I will, first off, I will book hair and makeup artists that can work with black models who are diverse. If I have a makeup artist who cannot do black faces, obviously you're in the wrong business, because you are not educated. Because as people of color, you know, we know what works for us. And, you know, I'm not going to let my models go out and look ghostly. So I think my models know that I have an assistant, so they'll go to the assistant if they're not comfortable. You know, professionals, they'll know, don't go off in the makeup hair person. So they'll come to me. We've gone through lookbooks. We understand what the look is going to look like, the visions, and we'll have pictures of the models. So I think most importantly, having a team that is diverse, that can work with all types of models. And I think we're having these issues now in the business where, you know, models will show up and black models have to have their own makeup. Well, we shouldn't have to do that. I think the producers should know they got a team that's diverse that can do everybody. But then also I encourage the models, you know, especially that's why I book models that have natural hair, because it's a challenge to work with weaves because, you know, it might be a bad weave. If you put a hot comb, it might melt. So I think as the model, that's why I like them to come natural. And or you tell us that it's weave and if it's synthetic or if it's cow hair, whatever all the hairs are, if it's gonna melt. Because, you know, so we got to be honest about that. But, you know, but the question is,
very important.
Yeah, how do we communicate that? I mean, I think as the producer, as the client, you know, we have to understand we have what's called a lookbook and a storyboard that here's the designs, here's the talent, here's the lookbook in terms of the makeup. And, you know, there's a whole different hair team. So for me, I always have a lead for hair and I have a lead for makeup. And then I have an assistant that communicates all of it. But, you know, it's all about production. So, you know, we've had pre-production meetings way out, you know, and then come day of the show. And you also have to be flexible. You know, sometimes those makeup looks don't work.
Okay.
I hope that.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention you also did something for the Super Bowl as well, right?
So a couple years ago, I did work for the Super Bowl that was here happened in Minnesota. We did a show called Arctic Bowl, and it was an interesting show. I mean, it was a great, successful show, great models and everything like that. So we did it. You know, it worked. I think the client was happy at the end game. You know, so we make it work. You know, I can work with any budgets and any types of shows.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask you, what do you need from the fashion models to make them look their best?
Well, it's not so much me. I think.
Well, I guess you kind of mentioned that.
No, I think for the models, I think the models have to have an internal beauty. They have to also be comfortable. And for if it's runway, we have to walk, or at least I would tell any model, if you're going to go into business, especially for runway, you know, now everything's YouTube. When I started, there wasn't YouTube, but know how to walk, you know, and own the runway. You know, get your own style, not like a horse, but have a nice, elegant style. So you're young, so your asses are still real, your tits are still perky. You know, have a nice smile and everything, but you know, own the moment. When you walk in, own it. And I tell people, particularly women, you know, because they're going to be the president one day. So when you walk in, you're auditioning, wear that black and white, have a nice pair of heels, show your assets, and have a nice handshake, and have a nice present. Introduce who you are. You know, this whole thing, like, oh, that's not going to work, because I'm going to be afraid that's how you're going to walk on the runway.
Oh, okay.
And for guys, the same thing, you know, pull it up, you know, own those moments. Okay. Because runway is like an audition for life. Because everyone, you're going to have a real job. I mean, this is fun. It pays our bills. But when you're going into the real world, own it. Own who you are and have self-confidence.
Okay. Just a couple more questions. So we talked about the height of the models and whatnot. What if there's somebody who has a really unique look but they're, you know,
petite?
Yeah. So, but I think they have petite models.
Yeah, they have petite models, but it depends on what the show is. We've got some petite models. I personally would never put a petite model in sneakers. It only makes them smaller. And I usually walk them separately so they own it by themselves. You know, so it doesn't have this big crazy height and everything like that. But you know, I work with some petite models. Carlene Collender is one of them. Beautiful young lady, owns the runway. Yeah. So, and you know, Carrie Solster, by the way, who is Yara's mother, is petite.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that commercial mom you mentioned.
Commercial mommy.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that? Or?
Well, yeah. Commercial mommy, you can find her and follow her, but I think most importantly, that's her story. But I think for anyone growing up, you never know who anyone is. And I think for young people, we have to be consistent and considerate because we don't know who's on the way up and where they're going to wind up. So most importantly, and I always share information because someone shared it with me, and it's just plus how we are all raised. You know, we're all raised in the church, and I remember a friend of mine, Sarah Rogers, who's in the business here in the Twin Cities. Her mother is Mrs. Walker, is, baby, how can I help and what do you need? That's how we were raised. So it's not about the money. It's about just helping each other. So I would say that's Carrie Solster's story. She has Instagram account, Commercial Mommy. But most importantly, you just never know who anyone is in life, and we all want to work together.
Okay. So I'm noticing these socks. Those are
my socks. My socks.
Where did those come from?
So these particular socks are from friends and clients of mine in South Africa, Cape Town, from a company called Unknown Union. And they're locally made in Cape Town there. So it's a lost African dialect, but I really encourage people to follow Unknown Union. They do a lot of black and whites and grays and amazing knitwears and t-shirts. And they have another t-shirt brand that came out in 1994, which was when Nelson Mandela was freed from Robben Island because of apartheid. So they're one of my clients, and they're like family friends. I'm like the uncle who comes in, and I've worked backstage for their shows, and I've worked on their lookbook.
Okay.
You know.
So, are there any other last minute things that you want to, last minute advice to young people who are looking to get in?
I would think for young people to get in the business, know the business, and surround yourselves by people who are positive and who are creative. And I would think, I'm a guy, but as telling young ladies, if you're doing something and you're not comfortable, or someone asks you to do something you're not comfortable with, stop. Call your parents, call your agencies, because I've been blessed. I haven't been around crazy shady, but I've heard of things like that. So, if someone's hitting on you, that's not the business. If someone also is trying to get money from you we know you have to pay for money for photo shoots and comp cards, but if an agency's trying to have you pay right out of the gate, that's not a real agency. So, be open. I would never give your phone number to someone, especially if you're a young person. I would never give your email address unless your parent's on there, so that someone can follow that conversation. I wouldn't go to a photo shoot alone if you've never worked with the photographer or the production team, because I work with young models as well. I encourage their parents to come. I encourage their parents to be backstage. A funny story, we have a young model who's beautiful. She's 5'9", 16. Her mother comes with her on this as a fashion show, and the designer kept wanting to put her in clothes that were not appropriate for a 16-year-old. And I'm like, no. And the mother's there, and the models always want to please, and we get that. But there is something about being appropriate and inappropriate. So the mother, we have a conversation, the designer, I'm like, no, the mother's here. How do you feel? So I think we as producers and parents, and I'm a grandparent, we have to understand people's cultures. And then also models who are Muslim don't wear swimsuits, or, you have to really have a rapport with the models and the families and the agencies.
This is just, I just want to ask, I don't want to be.
Can I be naughty? No. I am naughty and inappropriate.
No, but I don't want to be a funny-duddy. But it does seem like the swimsuits are more revealing these days. But even for people who are grown, how do you feel about that? Or, because you kind of grew up in the era that I did.
Yeah.
Or, but it's also fashion too. Because when I was watching the Grammys, it was very communist-y,
A lot of skin?
Yeah, a lot of skin.
If you go back to when Calvin Klein made it with obsession, sex does sell. When you look at Kate Moss and stuff like that. But I think we have to culturally understand what's appropriate, what's acceptable. I'm going to do a show. Actually, we have a show coming up. I think it's April 29th. I Am Moody fashion presentation during Minnesota Spring Fashion Week. If I do swimwear, I will typically use cover-ups, so that it's just not in your face.
Right.
And we'll do some things with boys and, with Speedos, but they'll probably have a towel and stuff like that, So I think you have to know the audience. I think you have to know the models, because I do have models who are Muslim. I have models who are wearing hijabs. And there are some modest swimwears that you can show and things like that. So, I think I'm kind of old school as well, but I also do know sex sells. But I also have to know what models are comfortable with that. And then I'm probably not going to use models that are super skinny. I want to use all types, because that's what's in the world in all ages.
Right.
If they can walk and they can work it, because I'm old. And I'm still in the business, still working.
Yes, yes. Well,
still working.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. Yeah. This was a true pleasure.
I hope it makes sense.
Yes, it was fantastic. Yeah. It was fantastic. Any last words before, we close?
Well, thank you for letting me be here and believing in me. I think for anyone who's getting in the business, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself, believe in whatever power is above. And I think have open conversations with your agencies, because know this, if your agency is not calling, you're not getting paid. So, and it takes two. So call your agencies on a Monday, on a Friday. And then also, write down when you did that job. So you can all remember, know that you're not going to get paid right away. Right. But know if you're in this business, you got to pay to play. Because you have to invest in you, and sell you.
That's true. That's true. So how can people get in contact with you again? Just, if they want to connect with you.
If you want to find me, maybe on Instagram, I'm RTI and Moody on Instagram, Facebook, Richard Moody, which unfortunately I think there's a lot of people so that you may not be able to get on. So Instagram, and we all know Instagram connects with Twitter and connects with Facebook and everything like that, or the IamMoody.com website and everything like that. But, but call the agencies,
Okay.
Have a good time.
So
have a good time, everyone.
And thank you for joining us on Pictures Up.
Pictures Up.